Peace and blessings, people. So today we're going to talk about how chronic inflammation is at the foundation of most chronic conditions or chronic diseases, and how we can take a natural or holistic approach to removing that inflammation from the body, okay? But before we do that, make sure you subscribe and also like and share so that it'll inspire me to do more videos like this, okay? So let's get into it. Chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the underlying cause of most chronic conditions that most people are experiencing. And the reason why that is because inflammation is the critical step in the disease formation process. Let me sort of break that down for you. Disease happens like this. There's an irritation, and then there's inflammation as a result of that irritation. And then that inflammation creates tissue damage. And then tissue damage leads to tissue dysfunction. Remember, tissues make organs, so that means it leads to also organ dysfunction too. And that's what causes dis-ease in the body, okay? Now, according to the NIH, or the National Institutes for Health, 3 out of 5 people die due to a chronic inflammatory condition, okay? This means strokes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, chronic respiratory conditions, cancer, obesity, Alzheimer's, dementia, yes, brain disorders as well is a result of inflammation as well, gut issues, okay? The list goes on and on and on, okay? The #1 cause of death for human beings is heart disease, okay? And at the foundation of heart disease is inflammation, okay? So let's get into some of those signs and symptoms that people experience, if not on a daily basis, but monthly and annual basis. And that is the difference between acute inflammation versus chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is something that occurs on a daily, monthly, annual basis, whereas acute inflammation is something that happens after a workout, something that happens if you get injured and then it goes away. But I'm talking about chronic inflammation that's happening on a daily basis. And here are some of those signs and symptoms. Body discomfort, where you're just sitting or you lay down to sleep at night and you just cannot get comfortable. That's a sign that your body is chronically inflamed, okay? Sleep disorders or sleep problems. Everything ranging from an inability to stay asleep or go to sleep to sleep apnea, okay? Could be a result of chronic inflammation in the body as well. Also, eczema. I know that eczema is a skin disorder and you're thinking, well, that's eczema. It can't be inflammation in the body. It's inflammation on the body, but what's on the body or on the outside of the body is only a reflection of what's going on inside of the body, okay? And as you can see with eczema, the skin gets inflamed, rashes, irritated. Again, irritation, inflammation, tissue damage, which leads to tissue dysfunction. Okay, inflammatory bowel disease. So even on the inside of our guts become inflamed. And when the inside of our guts become inflamed, it's just not happening on the inside of our guts. That is going to create a leaky gut condition that is going to have things leaking into the gut, which is going to trigger the immune system to release all of these pro-inflammatory cytokines that inflame the entire body, not just the gut. Okay. Also, chronic fatigue, when you're tired all the time. That also could be a sign and symptom that you're chronically inflamed as well. Gum disease. And going back a little bit, remember, inflammation is often characterized by the word itis at the ending of it. And what I mean by that is arthritis, gingivitis, inflammation of the gums. Also ulcerative colitis, inflammation of the colon. Again, the itis is indicative of inflammation, not necessarily that you're sleepy. I know a lot of people say, I got the itis, but the itis means that you got inflammation in your body, truly, okay? So gum disease, colon inflammation in the form of ulcerative colitis. These are things that are telling us that the body is inflamed as well. So these create chronic inflammation all over the body as well. Also, excessive mucus production, okay? And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. When the sinuses get inflamed or start to produce mucus, it's happening because there's an irritant. Remember, it starts with an irritant. That irritation causes inflammation, causes the sinuses to kind of get inflamed, making them narrower, so that the pollen that happens during the spring, you're breathing in all this pollen. They get the sinuses get more inflamed, they get narrower, okay, so that can catch the pollen, okay. And what the body does is it triggers the release of mucus to line the sinus cavities and those mucous membranes to catch that actual pollen or irritant that's coming through. But that mucus production is also helping with the inflammation as well too. Okay, so it's important to understand excessive mucus production could also be a sign and symptom that the body is inflamed as well. So let's get into some of the causes. What's causing so much of this? And we've sort of hinted to some of them, but one of the causes could be cortisol levels. Okay, cortisol is a stress hormone, but it also works very uniquely with our sleep-wake cycles as well too. But when you're chronically stressed, you're going to be chronically producing cortisol in the body, okay? And that is eventually going to lead to inflammation in the body as well too, when you're producing this short stress hormone constantly over long periods of time. Also, vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is a potent anti-inflammatory hormone. I said hormone, not vitamin, because vitamin D is actually a hormone and not a vitamin. But it's a potent anti-inflammatory hormone, okay? And what I mean by that is vitamin D, when your levels are adequate or therapeutic, it will actually lower what's called C-reactive protein. And most of your doctors, if you were to go in and say, hey doc, I feel chronically inflamed, one of the tests that they would do, if you feel inflamed or if you had heart disease, because again, heart disease, the foundation of it is inflammation. They would look for your levels of C-reactive protein. And guess what? Vitamin D lowers the levels of C-reactive protein. It also decreases the number of pro-inflammatory mediators, things that cause inflammation as well. And it also increases the number of anti-inflammatory cytokines, things that lower inflammation. So vitamin D is very critical to reduce inflammation. But when your levels are actually deficient, it will actually cause you to be inflamed as a result of that. Also, allergies and low-grade fevers, okay? And the reason why is because, again, they're triggering the immune system, okay? Everything from allergies to dairy, okay? Or environmental allergens like pollen, or when it's autoimmune. So when you have a condition like MS, lupus, things of that nature, it means that the self is attacking the self, meaning the immune system are attacking the tissue. So with MS, it would be in the nervous system. It would be the immune system attacking the nervous system, okay? With lupus, it would be the immune system attacking the blood or the tissues. So it's important to understand that, if you have a underlying allergy or a low-grade infection, or if you have a leaky gut that leads to the immune system creating an autoimmune condition, these are things that can make you chronically inflamed as well too. Also, an inflammatory diet. The average American eats about 152 pounds of sugar every year, and they eat about 135 pounds of white flour every year. Now that alone will inflame the body because it increases the blood sugar, which increases insulin, okay? But it also inflames the body as well. Also, the inflammatory diet is very high in seed oils. Seed oils are very, very inflammatory to the body. Canola oil, very inflammatory to the body. These are things that are prevalent in the standard American diet, okay? Which is roughly 70% processed foods, meaning it's full of food chemicals. Also dairy, as I mentioned before, inflammatory to the body. We've even seen that dairy can cause kids to, with asthma, to have exacerbated, episodes as well. So things of that nature, an inflammatory diet is very inflammatory to the body. I mean, it makes sense. Also, excess body fat. Excess body fat, because the more fat you have on the body, it will produce pro-inflammatory cytokines, things that inflame the body. And 75% of the American population is either overweight or obese. Okay, so you can kind of see why it stands to be true that the vast majority of Americans are inflamed as well too. And also excess body fat will also increase inflammation, leading to increased insulin as well. All right, and that leads to increased insulin resistance, meaning it can't get the sugar into the tissues, so the blood sugar levels increase. As blood sugar levels increase, the body's inflammation will also increase as well, okay? Also, bile sludge or gallbladder stones. So your gallbladder is responsible for producing bile. Bile breaks down the fats in your food, okay? If you can't break down the fat, all right, you're not gonna be able to get fat-soluble vitamins out like vitamin D, which means you're gonna have a deficiency. But also, you're not gonna be able to break down those healthy fats and get out the omega-3s. And omega-3s are very critical for reducing inflammation in the body, okay? Most people don't eat enough healthy fats, so they have inflammation because omega-3s decrease inflammation. And the standard American diet is actually inflammatory, so it's high in omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory. They cause inflammation, okay? So having a healthy, gallbladder and liver is very critical as well. Also, eating all those, as I mentioned before, unhealthy oils, seed oils, cottonseed oil, canola oil, which isn't even a real oil, it's a man-made oil, soybean oil. So whenever I go into a restaurant, I ask what oils they're cooking with. Hugely important, but oils will inflame the body, especially oils that are loaded with trans fat and unhealthy fats and man-made oils like canola oil, okay? Poor sleep quality. Poor sleep quality will actually cause you to be inflamed as well, because when you go to sleep, your body actually decreases your blood pressure, okay? It relaxes your body, okay? Relaxation is very important to being anti-inflammatory. But also, so when you don't sleep, your body doesn't relax. It increases your blood pressure because it causes the blood vessels to actually trigger or initiate inflammation, okay? So sleep quality, getting good sleep quality is very important too, and getting enough sleep is very important. Insulin resistance is also important. I talked a little bit about that earlier, related to the inflammatory diet, but sugar is inflammatory to the body. And most people have issues with blood sugar. A huge percentage of the population either has diabetes or pre-diabetes, okay? And that is a sign that you're going to be inflamed. And also toxins, the last thing, number 10, causes inflammation as well, because toxins irritate. Remember, irritation, then inflammation, okay? So toxins irritate the tissue. Tissues that are irritated become inflamed. Inflamed tissues will actually cause tissue damage, and damaged tissues lead to tissue dysfunction, okay? And also the other thing about toxins as well, remembering 70% of the standard American diet is actually processed food, meaning foods that have food chemicals or have been, processed with food chemicals. These toxins and all other environmental toxins like pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides deplete the body of enzymes and key nutrients, okay, that keep the body in a sort of a rested state or resist inflammation. Okay, so toxins play a huge role as well too, especially when you start talking about toxins like heavy metals and things of that nature as well. So let's get into some of the solutions. Some of the solutions are going to be just the opposite of the things that were causing it. So the inflammatory diet was very key to causing inflammation. Well, an anti-inflammatory diet is going to be the solution. Okay, so eating a lot of green vegetables, a lot of fruits, a lot of nuts, a lot of seeds, things of that nature. These things are anti-inflammatory. Number 2, low carb diet, low sugar, and intermittent fasting. So fasting, not constantly eating or grazing throughout the day, eating all the time. That's going to be a really great solution to lowering the inflammation in the body as well. Ginger tea I drink ginger tea every day with key limes, and that part of that is for the whole purposes of keeping the inflammation down in my body, because ginger is actually anti-inflammatory. So ginger root tea, actual ginger root, not the powdered stuff. Get the ginger root. Number three, increasing your omega-3s. Okay, omega-3s, as I said before, are anti-inflammatory. And most people are eating a lot of fat, but they're not eating enough healthy fat. Okay, so getting healthy fat. So one of the things I do with my diet is I incorporate sea moss gel. On my website, I have Irish sea moss that you can order, and I also have my multi-minerals. So I'm getting seaweed vegetables because they're very high in omega-3s as well. Algae, nuts, seeds, these are things that you can get your omega-3s from. Also stinging nettle, which is as an herbalist, my favorite herb in the world, is anti-inflammatory as well. Staying hydrated. Okay, when you're dehydrated, you're going to be inflamed as well. So staying hydrated, and most people don't drink enough water. Most people don't drink the right kind of water, okay, and get a high quality source of water. And the best source of water is gonna be structured water that you can actually get from fruits and vegetables, okay? So juicing and things of that nature as well is gonna be key. And then the last one is optimizing your vitamin D. As I mentioned before, you can get that through sunlight, mushrooms, and also correcting other deficiencies as well. Because if you don't have enough magnesium, magnesium plays a key role in converting vitamin D into the active form, but also detoxing. Because as you even get the sunlight, some people are actually getting enough sunlight, but vitamin D then has to be converted in the liver, and then it has to be converted again in the kidneys. So if your liver and kidneys are toxic, then your body won't be able to convert the vitamin D that it actually has inside of it as well. So detoxification is actually a really important part of maintaining anti-inflamed body as well. And as you know, I have an herbal detox that is a full body detox that not only cleans out the liver and the kidneys, but the lymphatic system, the blood, the entire gut, from the taste buds all the way to the end. So if you haven't tried my detox, go to my website, drbobbyprice.com, get the 14-day or the 28-day, and you'll see how that literally changes how your body feels. I literally had a person who was putting up blinds for me, him and his team, in my whole house. And he saw my detox on my counter, did my detox. He had this limp when he walked in. And then like a week later, his employees came back to the house and said, hey, we wanted to get the detox, just showed up. And I was like, the detox? I'm thinking like, you just put up my blinds. And they were like, yeah, we've been working with our boss for years, and he has a metal plate in his foot, so he's always been limping. He did your detox, and by like day 6 of the detox, it was the first time we didn't see him limp the whole day. He had energy, so it shifted him. So you can see how detox plays a very key role too in actually removing inflammation. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, comment below, and I'll continue to create more content like this. But remember, inflammation is at the cornerstone of most chronic diseases. You get inflammation out, you lower your chance for disease exponentially. Until the next time, peace and blessings, and Godspeed.